The discussion of the greatest player in NBA history is always a heated and heavily controversial debate, as many argue that it isn't fair to compare players across eras or positions. So today we're going to be unveiling the best player from every position in NBA history. Starting out at the point guard position. The point guard is arguably the most important position in basketball, as it's the leader of the team and the leader of the team's offense. The point guard is tasked with distributing the basketball and in some cases scoring themselves. The candidates for the best point guards in NBA history are Stephen Curry and Magic Johnson. Recently, this debate has sparked up again with comments from the likes of Gilbert Arenas stating that Stephen Curry is by far the best point guard in NBA history. Now, I do disagree with Gilbert, as there are three key parts of this argument that I don't agree with. Gilbert Arenas states that Stephen Curry came into a bad Golden State Warriors team and built it up from the ground up. Now, there's no disagreements there, as that's all fact. However, the part of that argument that I do disagree with is that Magic also didn't do the same thing. Now, yes, Magic Johnson won his early titles with the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he was in the prime of his career, but Stephen Curry won 2 titles with Kevin Durant in the prime of his career, so for me, it levels out. Gilbert also states that Stephen Curry came from the mud and had early adversities in the beginning of his career with injuries and bad teams, but for me, I really don't see how that's an argument against Magic, as Magic Johnson came into a struggling Lakers team and won the Finals MVP in his rookie season without Kareem in the starting lineup. The greatest point guard of all time is Magic Johnson, as Magic was a fast-paced player with a great passing ability, as over his 13-year career, Magic Johnson averaged 11.2 assists per game, which is the highest in league history. For a good point guard, there is no stat more important than assists, as it's your role to run the team's offense. Magic Johnson was the first ever tall point guard, as he paved the way for others such as LeBron James and Ben Simmons, as Magic stood at 6'9" tall. Johnson led his Lakers to 5 NBA championships over the course of the 1980s and was truly a force to be reckoned with. The top 3 best shooting guards in league history are Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan. Dwayne Wade is the best Miami Heat player in franchise history, as he would win 3 titles for the franchise, but his greatness simply does not stack up against Kobe and Mike. Kobe and Michael Jordan are household names, as these two dominated the NBA like no other. Kobe was sensational for the Lakers in the 2000s, winning 5 NBA championships during that span, while Michael Jordan was on another planet in comparison. Shaquille O'Neal would win the first 3 Finals MVPs over Kobe Bryant, as he was clearly the better player on those teams, while Jordan would win 6 titles with the Chicago Bulls and 6 Finals MVPs. Every time the Bulls reached the mountaintop, it was because of Jordan. Michael Jordan was dominant in 3 key parts of his game. 1 being the leadership, as it was well documented to how he pushed his teammates to greatness. 2, the scoring, as Michael Jordan would win 10 scoring titles over his NBA career. And 3 was his clutch gene, as MJ seemed to always have it going in the clutch. Over his 15-year career, Jordan averaged 30.1 points, 6.2 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 2.3 steals on 49.7% shooting. Jordan and Kobe were both excellent defenders that would make all defensive first teams and average a high number of steals as well. However, Jordan was 1 step ahead of Bryant in that department too, as Jordan won the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season. There are only 2 other players in NBA history to reach that feat, and they were Hakeem Olajuwon and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who are both big men. The GOAT debate across all positions is still a heated discussion, but when it comes to the shooting guard, no doubt, it's Michael Jordan. From LeBron James to Kevin Durant and Larry Bird, the small forward position has some serious scoring talent. LeBron James and Kevin Durant have been the 2 best small forwards from the modern era, while Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics were a dominant force during the 1980s, as Bird won 3 MVPs and 3 championships for the city of Boston. This debate really comes down to LeBron James and Larry Bird. LeBron won 4 MVPs, 4 championships, and 4 finals MVPs. James was the most dominant player during the last decade, as he would win a title for 3 different franchises, winning back-to-back titles with Miami. For Larry Bird, the 1980s consisted of fierce rivalry after fierce rivalry, as if it wasn't Magic and Kareem's Lakers, it was Dr. J in the Sixers, or even later, Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boy Pistons. Larry was an underrated defender and playmaker, but this shouldn't even be a discussion, as LeBron clears him in nearly every category. When it comes to scoring, LeBron is the all-time leader in that category. Defense, LeBron clears, as he's elite, and playmaking is LeBron's best skill, as he consistently leads his teams with assists, averaging 7.3 assists over the course of his 20 years in the NBA. LeBron is talked about for the greatest player of all time. While it's a real debate with Jordan, there's no debate for the best small forward of all time. Tim Duncan, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Dirk Nowitzki come to mind as the greatest power forwards in the history of the game. 7-foot sniper Dirk Nowitzki had one of the most unstoppable signature moves in NBA history, as the one-legged fadeaway was a real problem for opposing defenses. Giannis Antetokounmpo is arguably the best player in the NBA right now, as Giannis leads his teams in scoring, rebounding, and even sometimes assists, while being the best defensive player in the league. Giannis broke a 50-year championship drought for the Milwaukee Bucks by scoring 50 in the closeout Game 6. For me, Giannis could likely end up being the best power forward of all time, but for now, it has to be Tim Duncan of the dynastic San Antonio Spurs. Duncan wasn't flashy and never gave the media anything to work with, but he simply never had to, as he would go on to lead the Spurs to 5 championships between the era of 1999 and 2014. Duncan was a 15-time All-Star with 2 MVPs to go along with the team's success. The rivalry between Kobe Bryant and the Lakers was always a good contest, as the Western Conference was so dominant during that era of basketball. Tim Duncan proved time and time again that he could burst through and win a title at any given time. While Duncan was in San Antonio, the Spurs played a brilliant brand of basketball, as they played as a team and never found themselves in a controversy. And they kept virtually the same team for all those years. Many will say that it is Shaq, others will point to the 50 points per game average of Wilt Chamberlain in the 1960s, or the footwork and defense of Hakeem Olajuwon, but the real answer is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem finds himself lost amongst the hype, as some are quick to put a different center as the greatest of all time, but for me that's just not right. For 40 years, Kareem was the all-time leading scorer of the NBA, as he finished his career with roughly 38,000 points, and had the most unguardable shot in pro sports. The skyhook was simply unstoppable, as in his career it was only ever blocked 3 times, and they were all to Wilt Chamberlain. After Wilt Chamberlain left the NBA in the mid-70s, there was nobody who could stop Kareem Abdul-Jabbar once he reached his prime. With the Milwaukee Bucks, Kareem averaged north of 30 points per game, and was the backbone to the Lakers dynasty in the 1980s, winning 6 championships over the course of his career. Kareem's skyhook was unstoppable, but these moves were just as unstoppable. Watch this video next to learn the greatest signature moves in NBA history.